Hello and welcome back to the Villa podcast. It is the morning after the night before, and I am here, as always, with my good friend Dan Wiseman. Dan, Aston Villa 2, Newcastle 0. There are so many talking points from yesterday's game. But first of all, mate, how are you doing?
I'm great, mate. I'm grand. I've got if you if I'm but it seems to be talking at a slightly lower octave than normal. It is the fact that I spent, the vast majority of yesterday afternoon repeatedly singing the name of Danny Ings. Not something which I'd done in unfortunately too long. So yeah, it's not a broken mic. My dulcet tones are just coming to you, slightly more hoarse than usual. But in the scheme of things, mate, little worries. No, I'm very good, mate.
Absolutely. And what a return to Villa Park it was yesterday, Dan. Full capacity, 41,964 fans rammed in at Villa Park. And it feels so good, man. It feels so good. Likewise, I'm a bit rough on the old vocals. I mean, literally, I feel like I mentioned this on every podcast. I'm just surrounded by lateral flow tests I've been taking just to make sure that I'm all good because I've kind of been here, there, and everywhere at the moment. So, it was a concert the other day. Thankfully, I'm still testing negative. So we're hoping that there's no spanners thrown into the works there. But back at Villa Park, Dan, it felt so good. I mean, looking outside now and yesterday was bloody awful weather. It's nice. You generally have 3 or 4 games at the start of the season, Dan, where you can go down Villa Park in your shorts and a t-shirt and really just enjoy the weather. I was unfortunate enough to miss the Bournemouth and Everton games, of 2 seasons ago now. The Bournemouth game, very sunny day. Douglas Luiz scores that wonder goal. And you guys all know what happened with that Everton game. Amaral Golsey at night. But on our return to Villa Park, Dan, I feel like we couldn't have asked for a better result and a better performance as well. I think, considering how poor we were in the first 45 minutes against Watford, I felt like this was very much a continuation of the sort of latter half of the second half against Watford. And despite a bit of a sort of tumultuous opening sort of 10, 15, 20 minutes against Newcastle, where I think we just sort of struggled with the physicality of the game, Villa really did dictate this game, didn't they, Dan?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. We did, and it was interesting that we managed to do that, considering it wasn't the best first half, was it? Really, I never really felt like we got going in the first 45. We had that sort of heart in our mouths moment early on that we were just talking about off air, where there was just this. I'm not really sure what went on. I think we thought it was offside when Callum Wilson went through 1-on-1. Ming sort of stops and throws an arm up to the linesman, and he runs through on goal, but he's never scored against the Villa, Callum Wilson. That's his 6th game he's played against Villa in his career now, and he's never managed to find the net against us. So, I mean, I'm guessing the football gods are just at play there, mate. And I think, you were talking about the sellout. If that game is being played behind closed doors, he probably puts that away, right? I think, if 5 minutes into the game you're running at a packed out Holte, and that one-on-one is going to feel just ever so slightly different. And so I think we saw that come into effect quite a few times yesterday. But I was ready to sort of go trudge into the concourse at halftime and try and get a lukewarm beer and sit there and drown my sorrows from what was a pretty disappointing 45 until Matty Cash gets a throw in, sort of in line with the Newcastle penalty area. And I tell you what, mate, what happened then in the next, following 3 or 4 seconds made up for 45 minutes of pretty much dross, to be honest with you. What a goal that was, mate.
Mate, it fantastic. It was honestly amazing. And you pay the big bucks and you get goals. It's as simple as that, really. Danny Ings. It feels weird. I think the last 4 players to score on their home debuts for Villa include Dion Dublin, Danny Ings. I can't find the tweet now. Dalian Atkinson and Ross Barkley, funnily enough, who was very good. Yeah. Sort of first half of the season last season, but the less we say about him, the better, I think. What a way to announce yourself to the Villa fans. I think over the years, and especially in recent years, Dan, and for how long we've been sort of supporting the club personally and being as invested as we are now, because obviously, if you kind of go back to when we're like 5 or 6, Dan, it's not really the same. As you don't have that kind of understanding. But Villa fans just adore a striker who guarantees you goals. If you can score goals down B6, you will forever be adored by the Villa faithful. And Danny Ings is just another fantastic striker who we're going to add to the sort of ever-growing list, Dan, of just wonderful number 9s. And I think we've got to give a shout out to Austin McPhee, aka Birkir Bjarnason in disguise. He's lost the accent, gained a Scottish one apparently, and is all of a sudden a set piece masterpiece. And both of these goals, Dan, that Villa scored actually came directly or indirectly from a set piece that Villa had. So it's great to see the fruits of his labour paying off early doors, Dan. Because God, how many times do I sit on this podcast, Dan, and just scream at you that we don't score from set pieces? We never look like it. And here we are with Tyrone Mings flicking on a header to Danny Ings and, scoring a bicycle kick in that fashion on your debut in front of the North Stand. It's just wonderful, Dan, isn't it? It's amazing.
It really was, mate. It really was. And I think, we saw Danny Murphy on Match of the Day. I don't know if you saw it, mate. Just sort of like saying how much he dis the concept of a set piece coach and everything like that, and how you can at all really disagree with the role of someone at a football club that literally guarantees you that you will score more goals is beyond me.
Yeah.
How can you perceive that to be a bad thing? Like, you have a coach which will effectively help you to score a vastly higher proportion of your set pieces than you did the season before without one, and you perceive that as a bad thing, is slightly bizarre. But hey, mate, welcome to Aston Villa, Austin. It seems like we're having a little bit of a rejig. I was reading an article in the Telegraph which was actually touching on sort of Austin McPhee, his role in the Mexico and Northern Ireland national teams, what he's done with those sides. It also said that we're close to be appointing a new coach, first team coach, who will effectively come in and be number 3 behind Craig Shakespeare. And whilst saw that, we saw some clever you go back and you saw, you watch it with a different eye. There are some clever routines that we used against Watford from throw-ins. And so it's interesting that you're starting to see those come into effect. Dean gave Austin the shout out in the post-match as well. And so I think there's still a few interesting things that are happening from set pieces. We're still going zonal when we're defending them, which seems to be I don't know what the people inside the game know about zonal marking that we don't, mate, but every time I seem to see it, I just seem to see flaws in zonal, but we still try it. Yeah. I think it's interesting that we're still seeing John take set pieces over the likes of Ashley, because I thought as Ashley Young came in, I was like, right, there we go, there's the set piece taker that Villa haven't had in so long. But for the most part, it's still John McGinn that's stepping up and taking free kicks. But no, mate, that throw really worked. That Ings to Mings combination, which I'm never going to get tired of saying. But it's typical Danny Ings. Danny Ings is one of the few strikers in the world that has outperformed his XG for the last 2 seasons. Last season he got 3. He was 3.3 goals higher than his expected goals, which is incredible, really. The season before he was 5.8 above. So this is a guy that loves the spectacular, and you always know if you gave him one chance, he was going to score. And so it was important in that first half we just gave him that shot, and he didn't throw it up, mate.
And we've seen that Ings and Mings link up before, haven't we? In almost a sort of mirrored scenario, except I don't think it was a bicycle kick that Ings scored for England, but it was a volley. So it's great to see that chemistry as well. I think again, to kind of harper on about the set pieces, when you've got players as tall as Mings and as sort of dominant in the air as he can be from a defensive standpoint, and you even throw in the likes of Ezri Konsa into that mix as well, it's frustrating when you don't see goals come from it, whether they're assisting or scoring goals. So it's good to see. Hopefully this is something that gets worked on. Hopefully this is something that gets sussed out. I think a reporter asked for the BBC, asked Danny Ings what the routine was. I mean, he's never going to disclose that on Football Focus for you guys. But you guys know we got to talk about XG, haven't we? I think I missed it off the last podcast. But impressively, and we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves here, Dan, and talking about the game overall. Villa had an XG of 1.2 0.5 compared to Newcastle's 0.56, which I find, on a side note, just shockingly low considering the chance that Wilson actually had, sort of bearing down on goal in the Holte end early on, as we just alluded to, Dan. But as we know, a penalty usually accounts for 0.8 xg, which suggests that Danny Ings' bicycle kick was a 0.45 xg, which is, again, just even more remarkable. I feel like I don't really need to labour that point. That was a fantastic goal. What a way to announce yourself to the club. But Dan, there was a few sort of, I want to say, pleasant surprises with the team sheet as well, just to kind of rewind it just a little bit. It's sort of seeing Dougie starting this game, especially after the summer he's had. I was shocked. I was, sort of left questioning the decision, because you'd think he needs at least 3 weeks off. The man came in and he really sort of dictated the tempo of the game, Dan. Dougie was absolutely everywhere. And there was, a slight bit more of maturity about his performance, I think. He kind of recklessly got a yellow card in the second half, I think it was. But the way Douglas conducted himself yesterday, the way he was constantly showing for the ball, looking to progress Villa, and not only that, when Villa were struggling to get forward, constantly keeping the ball moving, rolling over from side to side. I think that is a skill that I think a lot of fans don't necessarily think is a good thing. When you think of sideways passes at Villa, you think of Ashley Westwood, and of course, that isn't a name that strikes any sort of happy memories for any Villa fan. But I think, a player like Jorginho has shown how important it is just to keep things ticking, keep the ball moving, because, you're going to keep the opposition on their toes. Hopefully you look to tie them out. Douglas Luiz, mate, had a fantastic game, in my opinion. Really bold call throwing him in there, but I think he was arguably, throws his hat in the ring for man of the match for me, Dan.
Yeah, it was good to see him back, mate. And I thought that, I was throwing a bit of confidence actually by Richarlison starting and scoring for Everton last week on the first match of the week. So and Richarlison was really the main guy in that Brazilian Olympic team, sort of leading the line, top scored for Brazil in the competition. So that gave me confidence that it might not be too long until we saw Dougie. And I think, whilst I definitely expected some changes to the midfield from the Watford game, because I think it was what let us down arguably most. That was an interesting one. I didn't whilst I wasn't completely surprised by JJ coming in. I was perhaps surprised by the role that he was playing, sort of on the left side of that 4-3-3, because we've usually seen him operate with the sort of the double pivot behind him, just giving him that little bit of bank of security, which I think is important for an 18 or 19-year-old. Just that, so they can go out and express themselves and play well, but feel safe knowing that if they do make the inevitable mistakes, there's that bank of midfield behind them just to sort of solidify that. And so he played a sort of enhanced role with a bit more responsibility. And I thought he did really well. I think there was a few times in the first half where I think, and completely understandably, the nerves were a bit much. There's a few passes that, went out of play and didn't quite meet their intended target. But overall, a really, really positive game from Ramsey. Someone who I'm really intrigued to see what his long-term position is. And sort of, I didn't know he had the capability to play like that as an out-and-out sort of 8. So, yeah, I'm really, really intrigued by that. That was another positive to come out of the game, that he went and played well. So, yeah, a really nice touch, I think, especially with given everything with Jack leaving and everything like that. So have another homegrown talent coming into the team and start and play well. It was quite heartwarming, I thought. So, yeah, hats off from both you and I to JJ, I think, mate.
Absolutely. He bossed it. And, just looking at his stats overall, I think certainly some ones that I'm going to just throw at you now, Dan, do suggest that, he is perhaps, capable of being molded into this 8, which I think is really important. I think the way, the midfield looks so much more, compact and tight and ready to battle against Watford when we went to a 3. And how impressive Jacob was in that second half really does lend it himself to have started this game yesterday. But, if you're looking at the stats, he's averaging 1.34 dribbles per 90 with 3.08 touches in the attacking penalty area. And, he's receiving the ball forward a lot of times. He 4.56 progressive passes this kid is receiving per 90 minutes, which again is really good. But mate, the one for me, the absolute standout stat, and it's one of them stats, there's not many who sit within the top 1 percentile of the pressures per 90 stats. Jacob Ramsey, 27.9 pressures per 90. This is a man who, again, and this is credit to Dean as well. He knows exactly what his role is in the side. He's capable of assisting in leading the press. And, we saw it so many times yesterday, Dan, the amount of times he hunted down players and was hunting down the ball. Jacob really fed off the crowd. He wanted to be on the ball all the time. He wanted to make things happen. And what a game this kid had. Absolutely fantastic. Jacob Ramsey, my friend, you start against Brentford. Absolutely phenomenal. But Dan, another player we have to give a massive shout out to, Ashley Young. Dan, I felt like I was 8 again watching this kid. It felt like it would never happen. It honestly felt like it would never happen. We see Ashley Young return to Villa Park and look just as good as the day he left, Dan. Absolutely on it. And listen, we reiterated this point so much, Dan, in the summer, didn't we? When we were linked with him and when we signed him, the amount of running this guy does, the fact he played in every single game in Inter's Scudetto winning season. We were very vocal in saying, listen, Ashley Young is not going to have any issues in returning to the Premier League. And Dan, it just feels so good being right. He doesn't look out of place, and that experience is exactly what we need, especially with a few of the departures we've had over the summer. Less the Grealish, but more the Heatons and the El Mohammedis and the players like that. Ashley Young, man, donning the claret and blue again. As I say, mate, I felt like I was a child again. It was absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, you're spot on, mate. It was great to see him back out there. I feel like he was one of those that just felt risk-free, and that's why I thought his performance was yesterday. I thought it was interesting that Target. I always figured Dean would be the kind of manager to give. I'm not saying I disagree with the decision at all, because it was totally vindicated, but to set the record straight. But I thought that the way that he spoke about Matty in his presser, and look, for Villa fans that didn't see it, Dean sort of revealed after the Watford game that Matty got injured in the game against Chelsea at the back end of last season, spent 6 weeks in a boot, and as a result missed half of pre-season. So on reflection, very bold to throw him into an away game against Ismaila Sarr. Yeah. First game back in the season. Looking back at that now, if Dean would have obviously had that information, it seems bizarre that we didn't see Ashley starting further back against Watford. But no, I think we found his true position. I don't think he's got the legs to play as a winger anymore. But he can certainly do that job at fullback. And you're right, it was great to see him there, mate.
And another sort of storyline to touch on, Anwar El Gholzi, Dan. Now, after the Watford game, I think a lot of fans were very quick to just sort of usher this guy out, myself included. I was very frustrated by the performance, but I don't think Anwar particularly set the game alight yesterday, but I feel like he did what he was told to do. Obviously, scoring the penalty as well in front of the Holte end. Again, with fans in, we're going to see the best of Anwar El Ghazi at home. And you could see after he got that goal, the confidence. He was standing tall, sort of dropping the shoulder every single time, looking like he was going to beat a man and absolutely bend it in the top corner. It was really good to see from the goal from an Anwar perspective. I think he's never missed a penalty for Villa, which is quite a remarkable stat in itself. But just to kind of sort of gloss over the stat, I feel like the sort of the attempts, the shots on goal, set pieces make it seem like it was a fairly even game, Dan. With 10 and 9 attempts respectively for both sides. Fairly balanced down the open play and set pieces as well. Villa did really dominate this game, and it's one that maybe the match of the day highlights last night wouldn't have shown. It was a performance you really did have to see. Obviously, I think we're not seeing as many games on Sky now, which is an absolute shame for a lot of people who aren't able to sort of get back in the grounds and stuff. But it was a wonderful performance, Dan. It really was, and with the start of the season, of course, Watford was always going to be a difficult game, but on paper, at least, a much more winnable game than some of the away games we've got coming up, Dan. With Brentford coming up next at Villa Park, this is going to carry some much needed momentum into what will be a relatively tough game at home that hopefully Villa can get 3 points in.
Yeah, for sure, mate, for sure. Especially as we've got the might of Barrow on Tuesday. I mean, that will be one hell of a stern test. I mean, you can look at Brentford, but hey, come on, don't off those Barrow boys. I mean, no, it's a really good game. I know they really going against Palace, but it's a game that I think we've got off and running. Hopefully we can keep on that good form, and I think we need to take 3 points from that game, mate.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Brentford, it's going to be a tough test. We've all, historically we've struggled in recent history, at least against Brentford. It's going to be a tough game. However, with the way they handled themselves against Arsenal, Brentford are capable of turning up against, the sort of the teams they may be expected to lose against, and really, sort of stake a claim. So yeah, seeing Villa Park rocking next week is going to be absolutely fantastic, mate. I'm gassed. I know you're gassed, and we should probably wrap this up here as we are seemingly having internet troubles on my end, and my laptop is about to die. So before we go, I'd just like to give you guys a massive shout out and thank you for getting us to 4,600 subscribers. We're closing in on 5k. We said we'd do a shirt giveaway when we reach 5k. So if you want to win an Aston Villa home or away shirt, or even a third shirt when that comes out, let us know in the comments below, and make sure you subscribe and share with your friends. If you enjoyed this podcast, hit a like, comment your thoughts below, and subscribe for more. Up the Villa.